Hey, I'm Mike Finnegan, host of Finnegan's Garage and Roadkill, and today I want to go air compressor shopping with you guys. Now, here's what you need to know when you're buying a compressor. First things first, be honest with yourself. What are you really going to use this compressor for? Is it going to be occasionally used in your home garage just to fill the tires on your hot rod? Or are you going to be running air tools as you sand down the entire body of your car? This is important because some of those tools can consume a lot of air. And the more air they consume, the larger tank you're going to need, the more horsepower you're going to need, and ultimately, the more input voltage you're going to need to run that compressor. So let's talk about electricity. Most houses, you're in your home garage, you have 120 volt outlets throughout. That's no problem. Those are the things powering the light bulbs in your garage. Very few of them have 230 or 240 volt outlets. Those are the kind of things that power your clothes washer. You've got a washer in your garage, you can unplug it, you can plug in a larger compressor. You can also have a certified electrician come to your house and rewire outlets in your garage to add more power. Again, more power, bigger compressor, better tools you can run. Now the next thing you need to think about is how much space do you have in your garage and how much noise can you make before you anger your neighbors. And that's important because a lot of compressors make a lot of noise. And in general, an oilless compressor or a single stage compressor, that thing can make upwards of 90 or 100 decibels. And what is 90 or 100 decibels? That's a loud car going by. So if you plan to work late at night, you need to make sure you can position that compressor in your garage where it's going to be muffled a little bit, while still having a lot of free air around it to keep the thing cool. There are compressors out there you can buy that have wheels on them. They're very portable. You know, if you've got jobs at the front of the garage or outside of the house, or you're gonna help out your neighbors, you might wanna look at a compressor with wheels on it. The one thing you need to think about though, is that in general, if a compressor's got wheels on it, it's portable, but it's not as large as one that's meant to be bolted on the ground. That one there has a 60-gallon air tank. It's perfect for running high volume tools like a dual action sander or a grinder, that sort of thing, the kind of tool you'll use for long periods of time that eats up a lot of air. That is not portable. You need to set it down, you need to bolt it down, you need to make sure it's positioned properly, has the proper input voltage, and that thing is a workhorse. It's gonna do anything in your garage you need. So let's talk about applications for an air compressor. There's two guys I think at home right now. You're either the kind of guy who's gonna work all the time on cars and you're gonna use tools like this. This is a 6-inch random orbit palm sander. Uses about 15 CFM of air. This is a 3-inch cutoff tool. This, at full song, will eat up 31 CFM of air, which is a lot. Now what does that tell you? You need as much reserve tank and as much compressor power as you can afford. If you're a guy who's at home and you're probably only filling up tires or your kids' pool toys, or you have the patience of a monk, you don't need a ton of compressor. Because what ends up happening is when you use this tool, you're gonna sand a bit, and then you're gonna stop because this thing's not gonna run very efficiently. You're gonna wait for that compressor to fill up the air tank, and then you can keep going. Like I said, if you're super patient, you don't need a monster compressor. But if you're gonna hurry, or you wanna work efficiently, or you're gonna use tools like this, buy as much tank and as much compressor as you can afford. So you know what tools you're gonna be running, and you know how much air each tool consumes. To choose the right compressor, you should add up the CFM requirements of each of those tools, assuming you and your buddy are gonna work at the same time in the garage, and then add 30% to that number. That'll tell you exactly how much compressor you need. Well, you've picked out the compressor, it's at home, it's ready to go to work, you've got brand new air tools. Let's not screw this up by picking the wrong fittings and the wrong hose. These two fittings right here have the exact same thread size, but they have radically different orifices. And if you choose the small one, and you choose the small hose, your 1/2-inch drive impact gun may not take the lug nuts off your truck. And the reason for that is, the longer your hose and the smaller the diameter, the less air pressure you have coming into the tool. Good example of this, you have 90 PSI coming out of your air tank. You feed it through this 3/8 hose and this tiny fitting. When you go and pull the trigger on your impact gun, you don't have 90 PSI anymore, you have about 75. But pick the bigger fitting, upgrade to a 1/2-inch hose, and you can adjust your regulator and get full air pressure to make that tool work the way the manufacturer intended. Let's talk applications. Let's say you're at home and you're just gonna put some air in the tires on your car, maybe do a home renovation project. You don't need a giant air compressor to do that. A 3-gallon air tank, a 1 horsepower engine, maybe a pancake style air compressor, it's perfect for you. You want to do a little more than that? Campbell Hausfeld makes quiet 6 and 8 gallon air compressors that'll do a lot of jobs. If you're really serious about working on cars like I am, you need a monster compressor to do that job. Let's say you're going to work on an orbital sander, an air drill, lug nuts, all those different jobs. Maybe you're running more than one tool at once because your buddies are over. That one there is perfect. That's a 60-gallon air tank. That's a single stage engine that puts out over 3 horsepower. This thing will make over 10 CFM at 90 PSI. And if you crank it up to 135 PSI, which is its max output, it still makes over 9 CFM of airflow. This thing is amazing. When shopping for a compressor, there's 2 specs you want to focus on. The first one is PSI. That stands for pound per square inch. That's a measurement of the force of air coming out of the compressor. That's important, but not nearly as this next spec, CFM. That stands for cubic feet per minute. That is a measurement of the volume of air coming out of your compressor. The higher the CFM, the more efficient your compressor is and the better your air tools will operate. So get as much CFM as you possibly can whenever you shop for a compressor. Here's where you need to be careful. There is CFM and there is SCFM. SCFM is corrected to atmospheric conditions. That number will always be higher than CFM. So when you're looking at air tools, you want air tools that consume as little air as possible. So when you're comparing apples to apples, all the tools you look at when you're shopping need to have an SCFM rating. For instance, you look at 2 palm sanders from 2 different manufacturers. One may say it only consumes 4 CFM. Sounds great, right? Wrong. You look at the other tool, it says it consumes 30 SCFM. Well, when you correct the first one that only had 4 CFM air consumption, it may actually be more than the one that had 30. Everything has to be standard, okay? So shop, look for SCFM, you'll know exactly what you're comparing. Want more information? Go to campbellhausfeld.com to find out about all of these awesome tools. And if you want to see more of what I'm doing in my garage, go to YouTube and search for Finnegan's Garage.